Welcome again to another edition of That Side Podcast. Today we have some wonderful guests with us. Will y'all introduce yourselves?
Sure. So my name is Shawada Good Philpotts. I go by Showa for short, and I'm here from It Takes a Village Collaborative. On social, you can find us at ITAV Collab, ITAV COLLAB.
And I am Sydney Turner. I am the Director of Social Justice Initiatives at It Takes a Village Collaborative, and I'm so happy to share space with you all today.
Yes, I forgot to say who I am from It Takes a Village. I am one of the co-founders and the executive director.
Awesome. So welcome.
Thank you.
So it takes a village. Can you give me a little bit of background about them? Like what do they stand what does it stand for? What was the premise behind it? Yeah, tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah. So, It Takes a Village Collaborative is a nonprofit organization based out of Prince George's County, Maryland, servicing Maryland, D.C., and the broader community. We focus on holistic wellness for historically resilient communities with an emphasis on Black women and also on justice impacted women within that population. And it came about because me and my sister, Aisha, who is the co founder, we both just had a vision and a passion for community care. We didn't know what it could look like, but we were on our own self-care journeys at the time. And we were like, oh, what you got going on is super dope. Like, let's hold space for other Black women to kind of figure out what we need. So we started with a series of community dialogues around adulting 101, travel, finances, health and wellness, and that was the one that took off the most. And it was kind of like, oh, our community needs wellness. So let's hold space for us to do that. And over the past 6 years, it's just really evolved into the organization that it is now. We have served men, women, and children. We have realized that our bread and butter are Black women and our other brown women. So we have our flagship program, Queen Bee Talks, which has evolved into retreats, circles, community cohorts, and one of our cohorts is our cohort for justice impacted folks, to be me, and I'll pass it to our director of social justice to let us know about it.
Yes, thank you so much for that introduction. My SNS to my whole entire world. We're locked in for life. But the To Be Me program solely focuses on returning citizens, so those who are justice impacted. It's specifically designed and named To Be Me because so long justice impacted individuals have been told what to do. They haven't had the autonomy to actually make decisions for themselves. So we recognize the deficit in that, and we wanted to give them an opportunity to actually define who they are once they are returning back into the society, and hoping that they have a successful reintegration. So it is a cohort experience. It's basically like a group therapy in a sense, where they who have the lived experience are deemed to be experts of their own lived experience and share their stories and their impact collectively as a community, as a village. And it's a 12-week course. Our approach is called self-care beyond the surface. So it's good to have, getting your nails done, getting your hair done. When you think about self-care, a lot of people typically think on the outward and not focusing on the inward. And so we get them to dive deep into forgiving themselves for their past mistakes and making sure that they don't identify and make that whole entire experience their one sole identity, and giving them the hope to focus on the future and what that can look like through a wellness and a holistic approach. So we focus on all things mind, body, and spirit. We do yoga, meditation, mindfulness, gratitude journaling. And so we dive really deep into the internal work, and it's not linear. It's continuously evolving. So once they finish up the cohort experience, we expose them to the larger village of the women that we provide retreats and services to, so they can have a larger network of those around them who may not have had that lived experience of incarceration, but are success stories within themselves, and they can collaborate and connect. So we're super proud of the work we've done. It's been within the past 6 years. We are expanding, and so we're so excited for the opportunity to continue to pour into our community as a whole.
Yeah.
Awesome. What does that retreat experience look like?
Ooh, so the retreat has been going on for 5 years now, and it has been a beautiful experience. So the retreat is an immersive experience where you dig deep and you have these breakout groups where you're working with culturally competent practitioners. And what that means is people that look like you, that have done the healing work, that have done the work themselves, that may be on the journey with you, but they have the skill set to provide it. So we bring together therapists, physicians, dietitians, yoga instructors, meditation coaches, manifestation coaches, and we host space for Black women to come together around their lived experience. Every year we have a theme. So we've had becoming the healer and the healed. We've had honoring your feminine energy. We've had this past retreat that we had was all about seasonal depression and how to spot it and how to recognize that as Black women, we often experience it, but we are so hyper active that we miss it. So just really holding space to become one with yourself and to recognize and become aware, become accountable, and then create some type of change around what you got going on. So the retreat happens throughout the DMV over the past 2 years. Last year we had it at ITAV, which is a beautiful space owned by a Black woman. And then we also had it the year before at Wellspring Manor, which is a spa in Prince George's County, which is kind of like a bed and breakfast, and it's owned by a Black couple.
It is?
Yes.
I did not know that.
Yes.
Did you take your wife there?
I've never been there, but I need to now.
Yes. It's a nice stay. So yeah, the retreat is an opportunity really for Black women to slow down. And to give themselves a pause and be okay with the pause. So we have one coming up June 29th, shameless plug. It'll be at the Pearl. This is a new type of format. So it'll be the ultimate self-care experience on a Sunday at a spa. So we'll have some meditation, some yin yoga, some tea making, tea blending with like natural herbs from all across the islands, put together by Itutu, which is a tea company. And then we'll have healing waters, access to the lake and the trail. So it'll be a beautiful experience.
Awesome. Awesome. So I personally make my own teas and I drink them every single morning. And I notice immediately that wellness difference, right? So there's a couple of blends that I always make sure that I have. I'll always make sure that I have peppermint. Always make sure that I have some lemon, some ginger, some turmeric. Those are the 4 like core ingredients. Now I can throw some other flavors in there depending on how I'm feeling that day. Maybe some mangoes, maybe some peach, maybe some pineapple. I'm a big Caribbean fruit person.
Because he's Jamaican, even though he think he's not Jamaican.
So where I definitely understand like that tea, it helps me on a regular basis.
Yes. So, and even that tea building experience within the retreat, everything we do is super intentional. So the herbs will correspond to the feelings that are evoked within the retreat, and the women get to create a blend that will go with them for their post-retreat experience. So nothing we do is just like for the fun of it, or just be like, oh yeah, we drinking tea, or we at the spa. No, like if you come into a retreat at the spa with It Takes a Village Collaborative, you gonna do some work, or you're gonna leave with some type of aha where you're like, oh damn, I need to do some work, or you're gonna say, oh wow, I have grown so much, I feel good. So that's what we're here for. We're here for that deep work that we often run from, and a guru of mine, Sean, who was my meditation instructor. He offered that like healing does not have to be hard. And a lot of times people run from the concept of healing because they think it's going to be hard work. It's not easy. I always say it requires grit. But once you have that grit and that will, there's joy on the journey, there's beauty on the journey, there's laughter, and at the end of the day, there's always a rainbow at the end of that tunnel that you have to go through with your healing. So she
is also a certified meditation instructor. So we're going to talk about that because she did talk about that as well. She just became certified. She has so many letters behind her name.
Congratulations.
Thank you. See, that's why you got friends like this that remind you of who you are.
Right.
And that's another concept of the village. Just really reminding you who you are and that you can have anything you want in this world. So,
Awesome. So how does someone sign up for this retreat?
Yes. So go to our website, www.itavcollab.org. The retreat tickets go on sale at the end of May. We do have a Mother's Day brunch coming up. We have a summer series. So we got a lot going on.
Ooh. So we need to just drop the whole calendar.
Yes, let's do it. So we have coming up on Monday, I will be hosting a virtual meditation, midday mindfulness at 12:30 on Zoom. So you can go to our website, sign up. We have a cohort experience for women. So this was requested to us from the women in our village. They were like, oh, we want to do a cohort. So it will be a 4-week experience where you will be going through our self-care beyond the surface curriculum and just really refreshing yourself for the summer so that you can have a beautiful summer ahead and kind of like release some of those weights that might be holding you down. Like it's real heavy right now. So holding space for that. That's on the website. Starts May 3rd. Registration closes April 28th. And then we have the retreat June 29th. So retreat tickets will be on sale at the end of May. But we have a lot of opportunities for you to just engage with us prior. So, yeah.
So, listen, we have this countdown for these tickets. What'd you say, April 28th?
April 28th.
April 28th. We have to get them by then.
Yes.
They are going fast.
They will go fast. Limited spots. And I do want to offer that one of the things that we are aiming to do is to be responsive and preventative. So we do have a scholarship available for women impacted by the federal layoffs. So if you have a friend or a family member or someone that was impacted, you can apply. And then if you were incarcerated and have a justice impacted background, we have scholarships available for you too. So all of that is on the website. So yeah, don't let nothing stop you. Our biggest thing is like bridging the gap and eliminating barriers as best as we can.
So I know that when I'm going to use a male getting incarcerated, for example, right? Okay. When a male's incarcerated, it doesn't only affect that male being incarcerated.
Absolutely.
It affects, if he's married, it affects the wife. If he has kids, it affects the children.
Absolutely.
Are these women who are affected by their husband, their spouse, their boyfriend, whatever the case may be, being incarcerated, are they also invited to be in y'all space?
Absolutely.
100%.
We want to, I was just having this conversation yesterday and focusing on how the women who are the collateral consequences of the mass incarceration of Black men are such a hidden population. So they have to, and which is why a lot of these women today are so masculine, unfortunately, because they have had to be the ride or die. Yep. They've had to be the sole breadwinner and provider. They've had to be so-called feminine to their children, but they don't have the capacity to do so in order to remain stable within themselves or for their family, because their children need them, but they are working 3 to 4 jobs because the man has now been, taken strategically out of the household in order to continue to destroy the Black family unit, which is a tactic from capitalism and patriarchy and white supremacy. But yeah, we are trying to focus specifically on women who are justice impacted. So a lot of programs focus on those who are directly impacted by the carceral system, but the women and the children specifically leave, they're in the shadows of that experience. So we definitely would love for the women who are justice impacted by mass incarceration to tag in with us and come and heal from the trauma of that experience itself, because it's been very intentional to break down the family unit.
Yeah, and the healing from the impact of the incarceration is so critical, because when that loved one comes back, the family integration is essential to ensuring that they don't recidivate.
Right.
And or if the person is facing life or whatever the extreme sentence may be that they have, that relational situation that should be maintained often gets severed because of the hurt and the pain and the trauma that comes from the incarceration. So even holding space for women that are still going through this impact and helping them to recognize how they want to show up in this relationship and why it's important for them to maintain it, whether it be for the child, whether it be for themselves, whether it be just for the family. But yeah, everybody.
Please, all women.
And I feel like as Black people, all of us is impacted by incarceration.
Absolutely.
So just to be a little more specific, like, yeah, if you're directly impacted in the sense of like your husband, your brother, your father, because you have this thing that you're navigating and that you possibly need space to process and feel welcomed and just also feel seen. And I mean, I can say personally, I've been impacted by incarceration, but fortunately enough, it was like a cousin or like, it wasn't directly. But it not saying it didn't impact me. I have a cousin that's actually serving life. And I remember I was in college and I thought I was on SUV trying to solve his case. Trying to bring him home. All the reforms happening. I'm like, oh, we could, but
get this.
Just recognizing how deep and how corrupt and just how strong the system is, it's exhausting. And that was the first time I like put myself in that. But I chose to. A lot of these people don't have a choice. They're directly impacted by it and they have to live with it and navigate. So we want to be able to hold space for them.
Awesome. So what about for some of these because now within this new generation, right, we do have a lot more Black men that are in the house, right, that are that are getting married, that are staying with their family, right,
Yes,
which
Black
is
love.
amazing.
Yes.
Facts, Black love. So where do we offer any supports that are able to assist those ones who did lose their father when they were younger, right? Now they're all grown up. Do we offer any supports for those people as well, like as in a family group setting more so?
Yeah. So, I mean, we have like community days, community wellness days where we're pulling the family together. The reason we have a heavy emphasis on historically resilient women is because we know even in those instances, right, there has just been a lot of pressure put on these women to navigate and to show up in multiple responsibilities.
Yes.
So if we're not caring for ourselves, we can't be our best selves to be like, hey, come with me to this event, or I'm doing this work, I want to teach my child this, right? So it has become like embedded in our culture.
Yeah.
So back to like the collateral consequences, even if you have not been directly impacted by incarceration, our communities have been impacted by incarceration. So I can marry someone and they got a close family member that's incarcerated, right? So it just runs so deep within our communities. Even when we think about like the broken homes and what that looked like in the past, right? So yes, this generation is doing much better, thankfully, but they possibly came from a broken home because of said system or because of another system, the welfare system. So it's just so many layers to it. Right. So yeah, everyone is literally welcome. We just have specific programming and emphasis to ensure that that population is not missed. Because we can say, oh yeah, we're supporting the Black community and not think once about the unique experience of the Black community and recognizing we're not a monolith, right? We all have different experiences. I'm Caribbean. My experience is totally different from Sydney's, who's Black American. So it's like trying to really hold space for all of the African diaspora. I'm going to just put it there because that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how do we turn this self-care into community care? When are we ready to start assisting those with being able to heal the same way we were?
Yeah, so our slogan is being the healer in the healed, becoming the healer in the healed. So at the end of the day, self-care goes beyond the surface, and that's what we believe. And I will say, from my perspective, when your cup is overflowing, that's when you can care for your community,
that part,
right? And a lot of us pour from empty cups. Yeah. we function in a deficit that we're in survival all the time. And then we have this term burnout that's very, very, very much used all across, whether you're in the workspace or whether you just in life. I'm burnt out, right? So it's like, how do we get ourselves to a space where we're not saying that and we're like, oh, I can help you, and it's not, oh, if I help him, I'm taking money out of this pot, or if I help him, I can't go to the gym. Like, how do we start centering ourselves first so that it's an easy yes, and it's a yes that comes from a positive place, and it's a yes that's not coming from one survivor to the next, but instead, like, I can actually pour into you and recognize, like, I don't have to pull you out of the ground myself. I could just give you the resources I got. And you can then do the
build your own ladder.
So I think self-care becomes effective when your cup is overflowing and you can be more strategic in how you show up for your community. And you don't put yourself on the line and your health and wellness on the line to support whoever, whether it's a family member or your job or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, we also have a slogan that says you have to be well within yourself to be well within your community. So just to go back off of what Shola just said, pouring from an empty cup, if you don't have the tools to be able to, or the sustainability to be able to provide holistic tools and resources to your community, because you are not, and I will say, doing this work, we are so used to being able to wear this bag lady, superwoman name and title as Black women, but we continuously burn out, are overwhelmed, are stressed, to be able to have all of these accolades and say, okay, we finally are successful. But everybody has a different measure of success, and I think it's so important to highlight that. I was in a conference this past week, and we were talking about higher education in prisons, specifically for those who want to attend a HBCU, and everybody has a different metric of success. So making sure that we even allow people to identify what success looks like, because we live in America that focuses on the American dream. So everybody feels like if you're a homeowner, if you are married, if you have kids outside, with within a marriage and not outside of wedlock, oh, I finally have made it to this pinnacle level of success, when success could genuinely be somebody who finally got their GED. That could be success. At 50 years old, I got my GED. That is a version of success. Black women, we at this point have the highest education rate in America with multiple degrees. But then that's having an imbalance of the family. So these women have PhDs, but they don't have a husband, because we have tried to reach such a level of success educationally, and unfortunately our black men are struggling, and then we have created an imbalanced system where we don't even give them a chance. So I feel like when it comes to self-care and the community care, the importance of defining what success looks like and not taking on the widespread mass media definition can start to be realistic about what is attainable, and then going out there and aligning yourself with other people in the community is so important.
Yeah. I think, to her point, you defining what success means to you pulls you out of survival.
Right.
Because you may be surviving and pushing yourself to achieve something that's not obtainable for you. Right. And that is okay, because that's not your story.
Right.
And I think a big part of self-care is understanding who you are.
Yes.
That's why that deep work is so important, because if you don't know who you are you going to be in your community?
Yeah.
Someone that's not present, real? Someone that's not real, someone that's just holding space,
Yeah.
So it's like self-care is so wide and broad that it's critical, because I think she hit the nail on the head with the piece around the success. If you kind of readjust your measures towards yourself, it will help you succeed a lot more. And I just think that at the end of the day, what I've learned through this work is me versus me.
Yeah.
And I'm not a self-care guru. I feel like the beauty in self-care is awareness.
Yes.
And it's self-awareness and acceptance of who you are, where you are, and when you're there. And like she said earlier, healing isn't linear.
Yeah.
Right? So it's going to be, I'd like to say cyclical, because you can be going through the cycle, learning similar lessons. And, so I feel like it's a journey. But that's why becoming the healer and the heal, because the more you allow yourself to become, the more you can be. Yes. So, yeah.
Awesome. So I heard y'all mention the fact that where women, they've had this higher education, right? They started this drive where women started reaching for similar levels of success, and that kind of might have been a carbon copy level of success, right? I did also notice that when education currently rises, right? Like y'all said, it's not as much time spent on the family. Right. Then you had kind of bashing about the previous generation who only cared about the family, right? When in actuality, a lot of these women who's gained this education was because of the fact that they didn't have this space to not be to be in the space to have a family, right? To take care for them. They had to work. They had to grow. They had to raise children. They had to gain more education to be more financially secure. Do you think that as men dive deeper into these realms, right? Diving deeper back into our masculinity themselves, do you think that will assist women with being able to rest, soften up, give them the ability to jump right back into where that they feel most comfortable, whether it's being that CEO or whether it's having that family, just wherever that comfort zone lies.
Yeah, I think that, I can't sit here and point to a point in history where I can say, like, oh, that is where we were, like, at perfection of who we are, right? I mean, maybe we take it all the way back prior to slavery.
Yeah, right.
The roots of who we were, the community mindset. And that's why we have this village mindset. This is why we're pushing this. Absolutely. Because we're calling ourselves back to who we are, which is community, which is thinking about my neighbor, which is being able to address the child next door and not worried about the child gonna fight me, the papa gonna fight me, or the mother gonna fight me. Or I might lose my life, right? Like, we have come so far away from ourselves. So, to your question, I think that men have to do the work too.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so much so that we, over the past 2 years, we're holding space for men to do the work. But y'all are different. And we had to accept that what worked for us may not necessarily work for y'all, but that doesn't mean that you don't deserve to heal or do the work.
Right.
And that's why it's called It Takes a Village, because we believe that if you have a leading lady in your life, or a leading sister, or a leading cousin that's doing some phenomenal healing work, and you saying the changes in her, you may be like, what you doing, sis? And she can say, oh, XYZ, check it out. Again, taking the burden off of her. She does not have to heal you, because I feel like we all have our own individual journey. And I do believe that as historically resilient people, if we can align and begin to do the work on ourselves, our communities will be so much better. Absolutely. Because it's like we're already moving in this individualistic society, which is white dominant. With, like, it's white culture that we've all assimilated to.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So if we could shed that layer and come back to ourselves, we can hold space for this communal work and see our sisters and our brothers and be like, oh, damn. My bad. I am hyper masculine right now.
Right.
I got to realize, I'm not in the classroom, or I'm not in my office suite. I'm actually at home, right? Yeah. And then for him to say, it's okay. Allow me to take care of you, right? But he has to be confident within himself. He has to be in a place where he can do that, right? Vulnerability is huge in healing. We're scared of vulnerability with ourselves. So, I work with a lot of clients, and a lot of the biggest thing that they often face is the barrier to vulnerability. So it's like, we can talk all day. You can be self-aware all day, but if you're not vulnerable enough to accept your truths, it's going to be a blockage for your healing. So I probably just went off on a tangent, but I do believe that healing should be available to Black men. I think that it's critical. That's why, like, partnering with Metalworks was a no-brainer, because you guys are reaching people with the mental health resources and the resources to create and reach their basic needs, that they can then do the deeper work. Right. That's another thing we realize in this work. We cannot have people healing if they don't got a house, a car, food, or know where their next check is coming from. It doesn't work. It's counterproductive. That's their main focus, right? So back to survival. We have to even start at the base level of pulling people out of survival first, letting them know that they're worthy to do that in order to get them to begin to heal and move into that space of self-actualization and being able to show up and say what they want and advocate and affirm themselves. Like, it's a lot of work. It's hard work. It is. And my biggest thing is, I had someone say to me before, I looked on your website, and the people that's on there, they don't look like they're really in need of help. And I said, what does people look like that's in need of help?
They don't realize those masks are being worn every day.
And that's it.
And that's what Black people do beautifully.
We know how to put the mask trash cans. Okay? Like, literally. So, yeah. I know I took us on a tangent, but it's like, we all have work to do. Yeah. And I think that once we realize that, we can begin to tap into that self-care, and we will become better as a community. And beyond race, the human society got work to do. It's not just us. It's just that we're in a space where we're like, oh yeah, let me go ahead and step back. Y'all can do whatever y'all want to do out there. I'm going to go ahead and focus on me. Yeah. But we all, just the human race is lacking in humanity. Absolutely. You know, and that goes to that individualistic mindset, that rat race, getting the money, capitalism, the list goes on, but we have to break that. Yeah. We have to break that. And I think that when you begin to tap into yourself, you begin to get to your right measures. You begin to see what really matters to you. You begin to value community and family. Absolutely. And it allows it to, become a thing that you pull people into with you.
Awesome. Yeah. So where we know that a lot of people, like you said, live in individual lifestyles, right? And it's not getting no better, right? It's not getting no better. We got VR headsets. We can go into a whole world by ourselves. We have we got our work from home days. We don't even sit in the office with people. Right. We have these mobile orders. We just go in to pick up our stuff and we go.
Or they drop it at the door.
Right. We sometimes we're not even at the store ourselves. Right. So what are some key ways that we can kind of get out of that I'm by myself mindset?
That's a good question. I would say being realistic with your expectations of how you want your reality to go. So if COVID was a huge shift for everybody, right? And that's another thing when it comes to
my N20s.
Literally, I know, same. We just turned 30. We like, dang, where did the time go? But COVID slowed everybody down where it's like, okay, now we can focus on wellness. That was actually a perfect time for It Takes a Village, where we started in 2019 and by 2020, the world was shut down and we had virtual capacities. People actually had the time and space to hold space for their own wellness. And then by 2021, 2022, we just back into this fast-paced society where people kind of, especially children, but I would say, the adults shifted into even worse than the way we started. So they attempted to focus on their wellness. They became isolated, or they started to pour more into themselves and their community in a virtual capacity. And now we kind of just didn't heal from that whatsoever, didn't slow down. We really should have stayed in lockdown for way longer so people could actually get their new normal, or what does the new normal actually look like. So the new normal can look like ordering your groceries and getting it delivered, because I'm a firm believer in paying for convenience. However, I like to go to the grocery store myself, but I actually prefer to go to the Amish market, because the way that they, whatever they're selling in the grocery stores, I'm a little afraid of it. So that's another thing. We focus on our body. So we've been talking a lot about our mind, but this conversation is focusing on the body. So actually getting up and moving. So people, when I'm having conversations, people during COVID, they started meeting their neighbors for the first time because they just wanted to start going on a walk. Because where else could you go?
No.
Where could you go?
But COVID provided a moment of
stillness,
isolation.
Yes.
That required you to self-reflect.
Yes.
Be with yourself.
Yes.
And think about where your life was going.
Yeah.
But to Sydney's point, it's like a switch went off that stopped the machines from going.
Right.
And then come 2022, 2023, 2024, a switch is back on.
Yeah.
And we're back. With the grief and trauma that came from COVID.
Right.
Never talked about it, never unpacked it,
Nope.
never processed it.
Right.
So it's just like, we're even worse at this point.
Worse.
But I think that isolation is not good for healing.
Right.
Right? So I had a meditation that I did today that talked about solitude versus isolation. Right?
Okay.
And the difference in recognizing that solitude is when you have intentional space to yourself and you can welcome in communities that value that peace and quiet. And back to that community, like, you have to find people that are on the journey with you so that you can feel like you're not alone doing the work. Right. Because isolation, you're not healing by yourself.
You're not.
And because you're going to be stuck up here, and then you might go a little crazy. Because a lot of times, too, we're running from our thoughts.
Yeah.
Right? So I think to your question of, like, how do we kind of pivot from this individualistic aspect of ourselves? I think it's simply turning the phone off. Yeah. Turning the TV off. Like, have screenless moments. Yeah. Even if you create an hour a day that's screen free, do it. For me, I'm aiming and striving to be a better person every day. But I literally start my day and I do not get on my phone as far as like social media until after 9 a.m. And then I aim to be off social media by 9 p.m. so that my morning and my night I am disconnected and I have to find something to do, whether it's call somebody that I love, read a book, watch a TV show I enjoy, work out, whatever it is. I'm pushing myself to get back to the basics of life. So I think that we have to create intentional space to pull ourselves back to us, and then we'll see that, oh, what I desire is community, right? Yeah. And then we'll begin to move into that. But all of these devices, this technology, let me tell y'all something. It's designed to keep us in the matrix, right? Yes. So, like, it's real. And a lot of us are gone, far gone. Even our youth. Like, I've had children where parents taking the phone away from them, they have a whole temper tantrum.
Break down.
I have seen stories of the parents dying because they have, unfortunately, at the hand of the child. Yeah. But the key words I would say that she just mentioned is balance and boundaries, right? So creating there's no way that we can get rid of the technology, right? Nope. We have to absolutely use it, but having those boundaries that you set hard for yourself and even for other people, because I found myself being overwhelmed with people continuously calling me, and I'm just answering the phone and and I'm like overwhelmed. So it's like cutting it off from other people who are overusing you, because I will say I'm a recovering people pleaser. I was just saying yes and taking on way too much and not pouring into myself. So having the boundaries with yourself, and that can be hard. Because if you have been navigating life without boundaries for other people, let alone yourself, it's going to be difficult. But being realistic with those boundaries and starting small is so key. So I have my notifications, using the technology to make you set those boundaries.
Exactly.
Yes.
Having a journal, having an alarm for when you want to actually pour into yourself and doing your journals. Mine just went off. I just happen to be here today. So I'm going to make sure I do my journaling when I finish. But balance is key. You can have as much screen. If you're going to have a certain amount of screen time, make sure you have the same amount of downtime or even more, because the phones are listening.
Yeah. I mean, and what you just said about boundaries, I think we have an illusion around boundaries. Boundaries are not for nobody but you.
Right.
100%.
And I learned that. I did a whole 4 weeks on boundaries because I said, similar to her, clearly, I'm the problem in some way because I keep having these issues.
Yeah.
And I did the course, and the therapist literally broke it down that, like, your boundaries are your armor. They're your protection. And the only person that can put that armor on for you is you. Yeah. And the only person that can take it off is you. Yeah. So we keep saying, like, oh, you don't respect my boundaries. No, you don't respect your boundaries. And that's why you're in this situation again.
Right.
And that's why it's so hard when it comes to boundaries, especially for us that I feel like community is at our core. Yeah. Even if we want to be individualistic, we're givers, right?
Yeah, no, we're givers.
So it's like, how do you find that balance? And then this weekend, my whole idea of balance got blown up. I was sitting on a panel, and this woman was like, balance is an illusion. There's no way for you to balance everything. She was like, at one point in your year, maybe all the things will be in the place it's supposed to be. But then the new year starts, and it's something else to pull your attention. So it's more so about understanding what should have your priority. And I had a coach recently. She told me, like, you have to learn how to look at your year in quarters, right? And create, what are your top 5 priorities for the quarter? Right. That way you're not overwhelmed and you have realistic expectations and measures of yourself. So, like, all of this stuff is, like, real. But I think that, simply put, how do we pull ourselves out of this individualistic space or this, like, false reality is literally cutting the technology off. And being intentional. Whether you start with 30 minutes a day, then you go to an hour, then you can increase to 2, easier. And then you have no tech days. Like, you know, but we have to do that for sure, because that's the only way. And to your point, technology is here to stay.
It is.
So using it to your advantage. Right? You know, and using it, ChatGPT, ask them, how do I get out of an individualistic mindset? They will tell you.
They will tell you the start to finish of how to do it.
Man,
use it.
So, use it to your advantage.
But just being strategic and intentional about how you're using it is the key.
So I would like to give everybody out there just one challenge.
Okay.
So where I remember when I was growing up, I was born in 92.
Okay.
We had to knock on our friends' parents' doors, right? We had to ring the doorbell. We had to learn how to speak to their parents, right?
Yeah.
I haven't done that probably in almost 20 years at this point, right? Almost. So I just pick up my phone.
Right.
Hey, can you come outside? I'm outside, or I'm pulling up. So what I would like to challenge everybody with is actively going to their friend's doorstep, knocking on that door, ringing their doorbell. Even if you're there to pick them up, ding dong, right? If you're there to go in and just say hi, ding dong, and bringing that personability back, bringing in, just taking away the technology just for like those 10 seconds, right?
Yes. No, and that's so powerful, because I literally just thought about, like, damn, I be going months without seeing my friends, but I feel like I see them because I see them on social media. Or I can go months without talking to somebody on the phone, but I think I talk to them every day because I'm DMing them back and forth. Like, it's like crazy.
Yes.
So I love that challenge, just to say, you know what? Whoever you connecting with this month or this week or whatever, be intentional. Take the space and time to just interact. You know, even one of the things that's starting to blow me too, because I'm becoming so aware of how to turn off the phone and the TV. Is like when I go out to eat with people, or when we're doing social activities and everybody on their phone. I'm like, put your phone away.
It's impossible.
But I have to.
They can't figure it out.
But I have to realize,
so
like, it took
glued to the finger.
It took me time, right?
It does, and it's giving yourself grace. That's the key to it all as well. It's like, we set these unrealistic, realistic, or we think it's realistic expectations, and then when we fall short, now we beating ourselves up, and now we're going back into unhealthy patterns. So just even giving yourself grace is something that we're emphasized at all times, because baby steps, and that's why we say make realistic expectations and goals for yourself in this time of wanting to heal and evolve and change and grow. So if you have the challenge to go knock on somebody's door and you by instinct pick up that phone and say, hey, I'm outside, give yourself grace. Take a mental note when you go home. Right. Take a mental note and then figure out a new creative, innovative way to still make that goal. Is so important. Yeah. So
I used to work for this organization early in my career called Little Friends for Peace. And it was, they're still around. They're amazing. Check them out. They do peace camps for kids. It's all about conflict resolution. But it was this little couple, and they were like in their late 70s, I want to say. But they were so intentional about people-to-people connection. Like, it was just like what they did. And one of the philosophies they had is that we're teaching people how to rewire their brains. And as you just spoke about that simple act of like knocking on the door, sitting here, it's like, yeah, we could do that. But to your point, we're so distracted that commitment, we can say it now, and then we're going to pick up the phone and go do something else. Yeah. You know, so we are literally rewiring our minds, our bodies, and our spirits to reconnect with our true selves. That's what we're doing, right? Yeah. So I just wanted to offer that, because I'm like, literally two examples of great challenge, but reality is we're programmed to function this way. So how do we deprogram and rewire?
Unlearn to relearn. Yeah.
So what's next for It Takes a Village?
Honestly, you know what? Possibilities are infinite.
Absolutely.
I feel like opportunities keep rolling in. Just like the start of this, we sat here and was just chopping it up with y'all, and then we got a whole new idea brewing, right? So we have a vision for the year. We know where we want to be. We know what we want to do. We want to deepen our impact in Prince George's County.
Absolutely.
We want to be able to deepen our impact in D.C. as well, and just really make those true connections with the people we already serve, so that as we go to scale in the new year, it's a no-brainer. It's easy. People are pulling people into it, that the doors are bursting at the seams, and we're like, okay, we got a wait list, or okay, we're going to refer you to our partners. Like, that's where we want to be. So we are just really focused on deepening our impact, increasing our capacity as leaders in the space to do the work, and also increasing our own self-care and ability to do the work, because we cannot be well within our community unless we're well in ourselves. So we're continuously investing in our growth, investing in our leadership, and looking to be in this work fully, you know. And like I said, I don't want to put no words on what's next, because every day something else comes up. I'm like, oh, okay. You know, but what's next is a summer series.
Okay.
So meet me on Monday, 12:30. Meet me at the brunch or even at the retreat. But that's what's physically next. But what's next for the organization is bigger and better.
Yeah.
And we're excited.
Yeah. No, we plan to be, I'm speaking into existence now, because that's what we like to do. Our motto, Self-Care Beyond the Surface, is going to be national. Like, people are going to start to be knocking at our doors to say, teach me, or can you all teach us how to teach our instructors how to use this approach in a holistic capacity so our communities can heal. So that's what's next for It Takes a Village.
Period. Yes, sis got it.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. Welcome. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next time on That Side Podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much.